Have you ever wondered if one act of kindness could completely change someone's fate? What if the stranger you helped today held your future in their hands tomorrow? Keep watching, because what happened on a rain-soaked highway will make you believe in the invisible threads that connect us all. The world disappeared behind a wall of water. Magistrate Elena Stone could barely see 3 feet ahead as her black sedan shuddered violently, pulling hard to the right. Her knuckles went white on the steering wheel. Something was terribly wrong. She fought to control the vehicle as it dragged across the wet asphalt, finally lurching onto the muddy shoulder of the mountain pass. Her heart hammered against her ribs. When she stepped out into the storm, icy rain sliced through her silk blouse in seconds. The rear tire hung limp and useless, rubber shredded, metal rim grinding against gravel. Elena's breath caught in her throat. Miles of wilderness stretched in every direction. No houses, no passing cars, no signal on her phone. Just endless forest and the roar of rain drowning out everything else. She stared at the spare tire in her trunk like it was a foreign object. The jack, the lug wrench, tools she'd never touched in her life. Her designer heels sank deeper into the mud with each movement. She dropped to her knees, rain soaking through her expensive skirt, and wrestled with bolts that wouldn't even budge. Her hands slipped. Her strength failed. The frustration building inside her suddenly cracked, and she felt hot tears mixing with cold rain on her face. She'd fled the courthouse hours early, desperate to escape the crushing weight of a decision she'd made. Custody case. A struggling parent accused of failing their child. She'd seen hundreds of them, all blending together into one endless plea for mercy. But mercy wasn't her job. The law was clear. Justice demanded objectivity, not feelings. That's what she'd always told herself. That's what kept her sane. Then, piercing through the darkness, 2 headlights appeared like eyes opening in the storm. An old pickup truck, battered and faded, pulled up behind her and stopped. The door opened. A man stepped out into the deluge, his denim jacket already drenched, worn work boots splashing through puddles. Despite the storm, despite the cold, his face carried something she hadn't seen in a long time. Peace, quiet strength. The look of someone who'd been broken but refused to stay that way. "Looks like you're in a rough spot," he called out, raising his voice over the rain. His tone was gentle, almost protective. "Before we go any further, take just 1 second to acknowledge that goodness still exists in this world." Rain cloud emoji. If you believe in the power of unexpected kindness, if you think strangers can become guardian angels, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Whispers of Light, because stories like this one prove that miracles still happen on ordinary roads. Rain cloud emoji. Elena froze, every instinct screaming caution. Strange man, deserted road, vulnerable position. But when she looked into his eyes, something in her chest loosened. "Please, yes," she said, her voice barely steady. "I can't get these bolts loose. I don't know what I'm doing." The man nodded, a slight smile crossing his face. "Let me take care of that for you." He knelt in the mud beside her tire, pulling a proper wrench from his jacket pocket. "Name's Elijah Carter," he said while working, his hands moving with practiced confidence. "Factory tools are garbage. I learned that the hard way. Always carry real equipment." Elena watched him work, studying everything about him. His clothes were clean but worn thin. His truck was ancient but maintained. His movements were careful, deliberate, respectful. He worked without complaint, without expectation, without hesitation. In less than 5 minutes, he had her tire changed completely. He stood, rain streaming down his weathered face, and gave her a reassuring look. "You're all set now," he said warmly. "Just take it slow out here. Roads like this get dangerous fast when they're soaked." Elena felt relief flood through her entire body. "I don't know how to thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You just saved me from a nightmare." He shrugged like it was nothing. "Happy to help. I fix things for a living. My little girl says I can fix anything in the world except scrambled eggs." He added with a soft laugh that reached his eyes. Elena smiled despite everything. "You have a daughter?" "I do," he said, and his whole face transformed. "Sophia. She's 8. Smartest, funniest kid you'll ever meet. She's my reason for everything. Something twisted painfully in Elena's chest. You must be an incredible father. Elijah's smile dimmed just slightly. I try to be, he said quietly, his voice dropping. But sometimes trying your hardest still isn't enough for people to see. She heard the pain buried in those words. She wanted to ask more, to understand, but before she could speak, he was already stepping back toward his truck. Be safe out there, ma'am. Take care of yourself. As his taillights faded into the storm, Elena stood alone in the pouring rain, her mind spinning. Something about his name echoed in her memory, nagging at her, but she couldn't place it. Not until the next morning. Not until she walked into her courtroom, opened her case file, and saw his name staring back at her from the page. Elijah Carter, the father from yesterday's custody hearing. The man who'd helped her in the rain. The shock hit her like lightning. Her hands trembled as she read through the social worker's report. Insufficient income, excessive working hours, missed parent-teacher conferences, failure to provide adequate supervision. The words painted a picture of neglect, of a man failing his child. But the words couldn't show her what she'd seen with her own eyes. A man who stopped in a storm to help a stranger with no expectation of anything in return. A man whose daughter was his entire world. Elijah stood before her now, hands clasped nervously, exhaustion written across his face. He wore the same worn jacket from the night before, but when he spoke, his voice didn't waver. Your Honor, I'm doing everything humanly possible for my daughter. I work 2 jobs to keep a roof over her head. I make sure she's fed, clothed, loved, and safe. I know I'm not perfect. I know I've made mistakes, but I will never, ever stop fighting for her. She's my whole life. Elena sat frozen, her mind racing between 2 versions of the same man. The defendant in the file, the father in the rain. For the first time in her 15-year career, the line between law and mercy didn't just blur. It shattered completely. After reviewing every piece of evidence, every testimony, every report, she leaned forward and spoke with a gentleness that surprised even herself. Mr. Carter, this court recognizes the legitimate concerns that have been raised regarding your circumstances. However, this court also recognizes something the paperwork cannot capture. Your commitment, your love, your character. Therefore, this case is dismissed under the condition that you participate in the county's family strengthening program. We're giving you the chance you deserve. Elijah's eyes went wide, disbelief flooding his face. His voice broke into a whisper. Thank you. Oh God. Thank you so much. You don't know what this means. Elena nodded, fighting to maintain her composure, blinking back tears she couldn't let fall. Take excellent care of her, Mr. Carter. She's blessed to have you as her father. When he left the courtroom, gratitude radiating from him like light breaking through clouds, Elena sat motionless for a long time. That evening, driving home under clear skies filled with stars, she thought about fate, about how 2 lives had collided in the storm, about how the man she might have destroyed based on paperwork alone had shown her more integrity than most people she'd met in her entire life. 10 days later, Elijah found an envelope in his mailbox. The return address made his heart stop. Magistrate Elena Stone. Inside, a handwritten letter read, Dear Elijah, the night you stopped to help me on that highway reminded me of something I'd forgotten. True character reveals itself when no one is watching, when there's nothing to gain, when helping costs you something. You showed me that compassion isn't weakness. It's the highest law we have. Enclosed is contact information for a workforce development program. I hope it opens doors for you and Sophia that have been closed too long. With gratitude, Elena. Elijah sat at his small kitchen table, reading the letter over and over through tears that blurred the words. Sophia ran up behind him, tugging on his shirt. Daddy, why are you crying? Are you sad? He pulled her into his arms and held her tight, smiling through his tears. No, sweetheart, he whispered. I'm crying because someone up there decided we deserve a second chance at happiness. From that day forward, everything changed. Elijah got a stable job at a neighborhood automotive center through the program. He stopped lying awake at night terrified about rent and groceries. Evenings became sacred time cooking dinner with Sophia. Scrambled eggs he always burned, but she never complained. And sometimes, when rain would tap softly against their window, he'd look outside and smile, remembering the stranger who taught him that even when life feels impossibly unfair, kindness always finds its way through the darkness.